Hello, I'm Farah Nazarali. I'm a yoga teacher and self care expert. And I'm thrilled to just be in conversation today with Glynnis, a dear friend and also a self care expert.
Beautiful. Farah, this is my favorite thing. Yes, thank you. It's so good to be here chatting with you. I would also consider myself a self care expert. So we're in good company. And, with our years of Ayurveda and yoga and bringing that to our lives and sharing it with others, it's amazing.
So, Glynnis, was there any moment that you had a realization, or have there been many moments where you've had the realization that self care is a necessary part of life?
Oh, Farah, that's such a good question. Um, I think my realization actually came in a more mature way later on. And what I mean by that is when I actually started seeing the impact of having a practice and the impact of not having a practice. And because we flow in and out of that in our lives, no matter how devoted and dedicated we are, there are always times that just throw us off our course. But I think the very early days of my life in advertising, where literally 15 to 18 to 20-hour days, um,
Crazy.
yeah, for years on end, which for me would culminate in a very strong yoga practice, actually, because that was my sanity. And I think that was where I actually first connected that yoga was my self care place, and then some of the other things that came later. But Farah, it came from extreme, you could say, crisis, chronic abuse of my sleep, of all the daily practices, working those kind of hours in a very stressful environment. So yeah, I'd love to actually ask you that same question.
You know, I agree. I think we humans sometimes we're motivated uh, in a positive way, but most of the time, what motivates us to change is actually a crisis. And for me, I was inspired to practice yoga regularly. However, it really wasn't until very recently where um, my partner was diagnosed with a very serious health crisis that I really got serious because there was no other option. I needed something to really anchor me in myself, and I needed something that would build up my physical and emotional resilience. And I've always felt that yoga is the practice that really works on so many different levels and layers. And so for me too, crisis brought me to commit much more to my practice. And I would also say, when I experienced insomnia for the first time in my life, I turned to some of the practices in Ayurveda to really help me get my sleep on track. And the value of those practices, I, I swear by them, because sometimes when I don't do them, I can notice the impact they're having. So sometimes you do them and then you think, oh, I don't need it anymore, and then you drop it away and notice the difference of not doing it. So you're totally right. I think that um, doing a practice and not doing a practice both can help commit us to keeping those things in our lives that keep us healthy.
Yes, absolutely. I so resonate with everything you said, because I think a big part of it is that we is the noticing of the pain that we suffer when we don't do the practice, but also the benefit of the accumulation and that sort of muscle memory of that self-care practice that really actually does serve us, even if we are in crisis and we don't have either the time, the energy, the mental capacity, the physical stamina, whatever it is to show up for our self-care practices. It's at those times that we actually also notice how our years of practices, adding up day by day by day, really hold us in good stead for those times that we can't show up for them. And then, with that, we get, yeah, and this is why I love Ayurveda, because it's so scheduled in a way with the seasons. Spring shows up, a season shows up, and we get an opportunity to recommit. And so if we have kind of missed practices for a while, or if we've been very devoted, we can really strengthen them. And this is, for me, this is sort of the idea of a healthy longevity, is to have a steady foundation of practices that you can really draw on daily, but that also can hold you in good stead when you are not available for them. They're always available for us. That's the beauty of it, and Ayurveda kind of guides us on this journey very gracefully to remind us.
You mentioned a daily schedule in terms of Ayurveda. Um, what does your daily self-care schedule look like these days?
Oh, wow. Well, you know, I'll just start by saying this is built up over the years. So, anyone who's just starting out with a self care practice, this can seem, I'll say, a little bit intimidating. But bear in mind, I've been doing these practices, building them up for over 20 years. And so now the most important thing for me, it's at the very top of my non negotiable list, is my meditation practice. Without that, that is the foundation for everything. So I do get up really early, 5 a.m. most days. There are days where that doesn't happen if I've kind of, stayed up a little too late, or other things have kind of called my attention. But I meditate for about 45 minutes to an hour, which includes a type of energization exercise that I do. And that is the very first thing that I do after I scrape my tongue. So I get up out of bed, I do a little sort of energy scan, go to the bathroom, scrape my tongue, because, that stimulates digestion. It kind of gives a signal to the body that we're about to begin our day and we're ready for elimination and all the other bodily functions. And then I will have my hot water and lemon ready. Farah, one thing I've learned is preparation is key to a successful showing up for your practices. So, and this has been a little bit more recent, where the night before I actually get my hot water ready in a flask. I put a little piece of lemon in on top of the thing so that I can pop it in the morning. So that's all ready. And these are some of the practices that have been, on my sort of my daily schedule for many, many years. The tongue scraping, the hot water and lemon, and then I meditate. And then after that, I'll either go for a walk, which usually is about an hour, and I'll come back and I'll do some stretching, maybe some yoga. Truthfully, though, lately I have kind of fallen off my yoga practice a little bit, so I do some stretching. And I'm really excited for the spring cleanse that we're going to be doing together, because it re-energizes me to get back into that yoga in a more intentional way. So those, and then there's oil pulling. So I do that as well. So just with coconut oil usually. Those are my main morning practices. And honestly, when I don't do them, which is rare, I feel a little bit off kilter that day. Yeah. So thank you for that question. And I'm really curious as to what your daily practice is. And I know that, we've been friends for many years, but there are nuances, right? And things that we bring in, and also things that become deeper as we practice more. We find that taking 2 to 3 hours in the morning for our self-care is not too much. It's, so I'd love to know what your latest morning routine is.
I highly recommend a morning practice for people to take time in the morning. whether it's 10 minutes or 30 minutes or 2 hours, because how it sets you up for the day is so much better than the other alternative of listening to the radio or reaching for your phone or turning on your computer or checking email or starting your day with coffee. So 100% I'm on board with starting with something in the morning. For me, I also prepare hot water the night before in a thermos. And so I get up. I irregularly on and off practice oil pulling. I drink my water and then I do my yoga practice. And I love to do it in the morning on an empty stomach because it's really the only time that your intestines and digestive tract are actually empty. At no other time during our waking hours is digestion empty, is the intestines and stomach empty. So you can really do twists really well in the morning before you eat. So I do my yoga practice, and then my partner and I have recently incorporated singing a prayer in the morning. So we meditate, sometimes 10 minutes, sometimes 20 minutes. We sing a prayer together, and then we start our day and have breakfast together. And in addition to the morning practice, I really try to include time in throughout the year where I can immerse and be with others who practice. Sometimes, our own practice is strengthened when we're in the company of other people who have a very dedicated practice, and it has a impact in inspiring us even more. So I like to spend time with others, ideally on a retreat or in a group setting or something like that. Um, I also really appreciate hydrotherapy on a regular basis. I find that it's really a wonderful, gentle, um, pleasant way of stimulating the lymphatic system and detoxifying the skin. And it feels so good to be immersed in water.
Mm.
And the other thing that I include in my daily practice, daily commitment, is being outside in nature, oxygen, walking, sunshine, light, being in contact with the elements. It's not only good for our lungs and our bodies, but for me, I notice for my eyes to have natural light coming into my system rather than artificial light makes such a difference. So, and I think you're right, Glynnis. The time we spend may seem intimidating. However, there's always ways that someone who's new or someone who doesn't have that can take a part of that and start with 10 minutes of meditation or 15 minutes of yoga stretching, right? Or drinking water before they start drinking coffee. I'm so looking forward to it. I've been looking forward to it for a few weeks now, and so looking forward to doing it with you, Glynnis, and with so many others, and so looking forward to the mental cleanse piece of it.
Oh, yes, yes.
Join us, Spring Equinox 2022.
Thank you.